There once was a place enchanting your darkest desires. There once was a road that crossed all your tranquility. A fight for true love, a fall for timeless lust, secrets of the labyrinth, destroyed bonds at the glance in a mirror. Hearts closed, thorns in prison, a spirit hardened. Rise up, warrior, confess your truth. Join us inside Black Garden.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Create Dominion podcast with their host, Dark Law. And welcome to the season 1 finale of the Black Garden. And so we have a very, very honored and special guest to cap off season 1 of the Black Garden, releasing September 20th, 2024. And so for the final inclusion of the Black Garden Dating, Relationship, and Healing Journey series, along with marriage, is none other than the Verbal T, Globe MC. And so, hello, Globe, how are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I'm so happy to have you here on Decree of Dominion. Finally, this is my podcasting sister, the Verbal T. And so, can you tell the audience and the viewers of Decree of Dominion and the Black Garden Exalted who you are?
Of course, I want to just first start off by saying I am so honored to not only be on this amazing platform, but to be on the season finale is such a high honor. I love what this series is. I'm so excited. Okay, so out in the gush fest, I am Globe, and I'm the host of the Verbal Tea podcast. The Verbal Tea podcast is a journaling podcast. So myself, my guests, and Tea Lights, our audience, we all journal together based on prompts that I release in my monthly blog. We explore all kinds of things from relationships to parenthood to our relationship with money, all kinds of things. That's what we do to try to create a safe space within ourselves first.
Awesome. And so, again, it's going to be a pleasure, and it's been a wonderful having, again, the Verbal T on not only the Career Dominion, but also in the finale to finish off season 1 of Black Garden. And so, what an honor it is to have you on. And again, as I start with every episode, again, this is the final time I get to say this for the first season of Black Garden. And so, as I always encourage the audience and viewers alike, because we are now on YouTube, so congratulations to that. And everything that's said here today may not resonate with you, but again, I just want, especially for the finale of Black Garden, again, it's been a wild, long ride inside the Black Garden, but I just want all the listeners and viewers to take one thing from this episode and this conversation with the Verbal T and apply it daily to your life to, again, become the best version of yourself and decree the dominion of your own mind. And so, like I've been saying for the past several episodes, for the final time, make sure you have your Neosporin, make sure you have any peroxide or ice packs you may need, and also make sure you have a nice Band-Aid. And make sure it's the cartoon one so you can cover up any blemishes or any pricks or nicks or cuts that may embrace you within the thorns inside the Black Garden. And for one final time for the first season, welcome inside Black Garden. And so with that being said, we're going to dive deep into the host of the Verbal Tea's childhood real quick to go into their journey of dating and happy marriage. And so, will you take us first? Let's start with how you grew up and how dating was influenced in your early part of your life.
All right. Well, I grew up in a very Christian household. My parents married because they were being teenagers and got caught up and got pregnant with me. And so they did what they thought was right and got married. They got married very young. And so it wasn't the happiest marriage. They divorced when I was very young. When my father and her, they both remarried other people. My father now has his love of his life, third wife. So I saw a lot of divorces growing up. I saw a lot of conflict, for conflict resolution, and kind of got to see my parents grow up and learn how to relate effectively. So I really didn't imagine being married because of that. Just growing up seeing, my dad go from one wife to the next and my mother struggling. She never talked to me about being a good wife or anything like that. So I didn't see it in the cards for me, although I was obsessed with emoting healthily and just like relating to people well. I was obsessed with it, but I just thought it was an unattainable goal for myself.
I love that you say that because, again, for those of you that don't know, you are happily married now. And so I just want to encourage the audience that you get to choose the journey of your own life. Again, you get to, like I always say, decree the dominion of your own mind. And so uh, a lot of times, what she's saying is she didn't allow herself to have that victim mindset or that victim mentality as she grew older because um, a lot of people, you can even equate it to money, right? Not everybody grows up, rich or financially stable, but we see countless stories of those individuals that grew up, less than or in poverty and, became very financially stable human beings. And so same thing here, just because it's not outlined for you growing up does not mean that it is not, in your cards and you can't create that for yourself. And so with that being said, you know, like I said, obviously you saw a lot of the negative side of the marriage and relationships growing up. And so going fast forward to, the start of your dating journey, how did, relationships work when you were, in your youth prior to meeting your husband and, what kind of mindset did you emulate from those experiences?
Okay, so I honestly, this sounds awful, but because I had such little faith in people and the longevity of romantic relationships, anytime I got into a relationship, it was because it was like the natural step. Like I enjoy spending time with this person and they want me to be their girlfriend. So sure. It was always like sure. I was had a very avoidant attachment style. And it wasn't until I became a mother that I was like, you know what? Now I have someone watching me. I don't want them to just say sure for love. I don't want that example of love for them. So now I need to work on myself to see how I can even be emotionally available to want to organically want to be with someone. And that's when I started doing the work right then when I was pregnant with her. I'm just writing out everything. And that's how I understood that my relationship with my father, watching my parents' relationships really impacted how emotionally unavailable I was.
I love you said that because me personally, I hate the word sure. There's two words I hate, and the one is sorry, which that'll be on a future episode of Decree and Declare. But the other word is sure. And so the reason why I hate the word sure, and now people always say hate is a strong word, but the reason why I have so much disdain for that word is because it's so like average. It's just the average word. It's like, do you want me or not? Sure. Do you want ice cream for after dinner? Sure. So do you want the ice cream? Do you not want it? It's like, I guess I'll have it because it's like a forced answer, right? Like,
Mhm.
I guess I don't really have a choice, but I'm gonna give you the illusion of having a choice. So um I'm just gonna say sure. And so not to bash your word or choice, but I want to dive deep into that real quick because again, there's other words people use, but what you were saying is you recognize that word of sure, and you again what she's saying, I hope you guys are listening, is what she's saying is uh a lot of times we go through breakthrough moments in our life, and her breakthrough moment was becoming a mother, and you're left with two choices as a parent once you have children. And the two choices you have is to either stay in what you know because you only know what you know, or create the lifestyle that you want for your children. Again, the Bible says, leave an inheritance for my children's children. And inheritance just doesn't have to be monetarily. It could be mindset. It could be, emotionally. It could be, how your child sees their self when they wake up. And so there's more than to inheritance than just, monetary value or your will and test what your family fortune. A family fortune is not just money. It could be, you know, a family risen of people that are emotionally available, that are, mentally strong, that have, morals and values and things of that nature. And so I love that you, cultivated that for your children of, I don't want them just to go through life, average and saying sure. And I want to dive deep into that. How are you able to, what engulfed your decision to, make that change and, live by that daily?
Well, the story of being pregnant, I was pregnant by myself. I didn't want anything permanent with the person that I ended up being pregnant by. Pregnancy was not planned. But I knew, I was like, this, what we have is not the example of love that I want for her. But I do want her in my life. So I just started writing. I was praying over her and I was writing what I want her to see. Like, if there is another person in our house, how are they going to treat me? How are they going to treat her? What's that going to look like? Kind of almost like scripting, manifesting. Like, this is it. This is only what's acceptable. Nothing else is acceptable. And by writing that out, I go into these thought spirals when I'm journaling, and it just makes me uncover things. So I'm like, I want this way because I saw this happen with my father, or I saw this happen with my mom, and I don't want that for her because it led me to think this was a standard. But I want to get rid of that. So just writing, honestly, just journaling and writing and manifesting. I wanted her to be smart. I wanted her to feel safe. And I wanted her to feel loved and see good love because I knew I didn't want her to fall for it. I didn't want her to date the way I dated because it wasn't healthy. It wasn't healthy or fair to me, and it was very draining. So I just wrote everything I wanted for her, what I had to do. It wasn't easy either. Like, I had to break a lot of bad habits. So it was worth it though. That's all I can really say about that. Like, it was worth it. I spent a lot of time on myself. A lot.
I love you said that because um, a lot of times in society, we think that we need somebody, right?
Mm.
That need, or that we think that you have to be with somebody. And I love that you said you spent a lot of time by yourself and alone because the reason why I love the illusion of being alone is because you're stuck with your own self. Again, when you look in the mirror by yourself, your kids can't save you, your parents can't save you. It's just you and you. I always say, the real version of yourself shows up, when the lights are off, when the TV's off, the music's off, you know, it's complete, that's the premise of darkness, right? Of, the creation of dark law, was birthed, within your own darkness. And I hope you guys were listening to that because there's somebody that's going to listen or view this episode. Maybe you keep getting stuck in those relationships where you feel like that you need somebody, or maybe you just, are stuck, by yourself. You think that, it's a bad thing. I want to encourage everybody that being by yourself and being alone, greatness comes from being alone. And your greatest moments, your greatest thoughts, you know, if you look at anybody, Albert Einstein, anybody that's Mark Zuckerberg, your Bill Gates, anybody that's ever invented something, most of those ideas came alone in darkness. Think about your greatest authors, your greatest poets, your greatest music artists. your greatest, artists in general that, create pieces of artwork, a lot of that was created in darkness, in alone time. Um, because again, that's when you operate at your most optimal level, is when you're alone and in darkness. And you said a lot about some of the things that you don't want. And I also want to encourage the viewers and listeners that sometimes you don't know what you want. Like I said, uh, Verbal T said a lot about, writing down and manifesting what she did want. And so if you're out there and say, I don't know, I have no idea what I want, start writing the stuff that you don't want. What do you not want to see? If you grew up in negativity, if you grew up in a toxic household, or maybe you were in a toxic relationship in your past, what are some of those characteristics? And so Maya Angelou has a great quote. They may not always remember what they did, but you always remember how they made you feel. And so I always like to mentally revisit those darkest places and remember the feeling that you felt. Again, the premise of the Black Garden, I always tell people, I want the audience to real quick look in the mirror and think about your worst relationship, just the worst relationship, and think about how it made you feel. And think about every emotion that went through your mind. Maybe you were cheated on in the past, maybe you were abused. Think about that emotion and how you felt at that moment. And that's what you write when you think about what you don't want. And so you live daily trying to counteract that and live a successful, fulfilling life. And so I encourage all the viewers and listeners to take that challenge. Look in the mirror by yourself. Maybe when the kids are, if you have kids, maybe when they're away or at school, or if you're single, especially, just look in the mirror, with the lights off. It sounds weird to look in the mirror with the lights off, but look in the mirror with the lights off. Think about that worst moment, that darkest moment. Take your mind back and then turn the light on. And then what you see in the mirror is your real authentic self. And take those characteristics and manifest greatness upon those, and, live a successful, fulfilling life. And again, like you said, it's not easy. Again, life is hard. Marriage is hard. Being singles is hard. Being alone is hard. Being together with someone is hard. It's not that you just meet somebody, you put a ring on and go on a honeymoon and you're happily married, right? Or happily fulfilled. It's a daily journey. It's an infinite game of life to achieve that. And so I encourage you to choose your hard. Everything is hard. Choose your hard. And so moving on from that, like I said, you had your child and you decided to develop a fulfilling life for your daughter. Um, so how has those experiences, how did they manifest when you first started dating your husband?
Well, when I first started dating my husband, there was some other guy actually pursuing me at the time. But this is when I was learning that just because someone is a good person doesn't mean they're good for you. So he came in and I told him, I was like, I don't think you want to talk to me right now because I kind of do have someone in limbo already. And I wouldn't want you to be through that as I sort through my mess. But he came back and we just talked about music and kind of built a friendship. And it was really nice. I'm always friends with people first, but this friendship was just different. He was asking the hard question, and I was in the space to answer them and ask them back. So we were having these very hyper intimate conversations about who we are as people, our past, our deal breakers when it comes to like all kinds of relationships, friendships, everything. We're having these very, very deep conversations while also just joking and bonding over entertainment things that we have in common. It was just very natural. There was no pressure to be romantically involved with him. It was just someone I really enjoyed talking to and I could explore anything with, and vice versa. And never experienced that with anyone besides my friends before. And I just so happened to be attracted to it as well. So it was like the whole the whole pot. That's how it started before he met my daughter. It was just like he was everything, the whole pie, very patient. There were guys who were nice, but in a rush to meet my daughter because they want more access to me. So, meeting her meant they could spend more time with me because I could have her around. And it just didn't make me comfortable. And I really appreciated how he was just pacing it and just really focusing on getting to know me.
We're gonna pause right there. Not literal pause, but I hope, especially me having, being a single father of twin boys, she said something right there, y'all, that a lot of people, I hope you didn't miss. So we're gonna break it down because I hope you didn't miss as she was speaking. And she said most men wanted utilized her daughter as more access to her. And so I want to speak on that real quick because that's a very deep statement, especially coming at the time from a single mother dating, especially, hearing that as a single father myself. A lot of times people will leech on to the things you love most to try to maintain and gain access to the most vulnerable version of yourself. And so the reason I say that is because, the things you imagine thinking about the things you love the most, if your children, obviously, number one. If you don't have children, think about if you have a loving relationship with your parents, or maybe you have a sibling, or maybe you have that cousin or aunt or uncle that's just near and dear to you, or maybe it's not family, maybe it's a best friend or a coworker or an old teacher, you know, or maybe it's a pet, right? Think about the thing that you love the most and think about, your emotions towards that person or thing and how emotionally vulnerable you are when it comes, if you love your children, how, your face lights up when when somebody asks you about your children, right? Even pets, if you have a really nice dog that you love and, hey, how's your dog doing? You look at your face, think about the emotions, when you light up the room when you're asked about, something or someone that you love. And so a lot of what she said there was key. A lot of people will look at that and it's both good and bad. And so especially in this um point in conversation of it being bad, a lot of people don't really want you. They just want a part of you, or they want to expose a part of you for their own, a lot of people don't want to see you succeed. Um, and that's one thing that me personally, I had to get used to, especially in dating and relationships. I know, like I said, some people are going ahead and starting to put them band-aids on, as we're deep inside the Black Garden, we're at past the point of no return on this season finale. And so uh, a lot of people use kids as a weapon, to get, even within, being with the person that you birthed kids by, but even on the outside, you know, and I want to talk to the men and women, but especially the ladies real quick, especially if you're a single mother of multiple children, you have to guard your children with your life. You have to guard not just the physicality of your children. You have to guard their mindsets, their emotional vulnerability, their mental mentality. You have to guard that in yourself with your life. And the reason I say that is because a lot of men will see that you have children and they will again use that as a disadvantage to break your walls down. And so, especially if you're a woman that has high standards or has high values, maybe you don't, have romantic relations on the first couple dates, maybe like Globe said, um, she was friends with everybody first. Not every woman is like that. So especially if you're like that, or if you have, high standards, a high guard up, or you don't let everybody in, the means of breaking that guard down is again to attack, and attach themselves to, you know, what you love or who you love the most. And that's a really big deal. I want to get verbal to, I want to get your opinion on that as well. How do you feel and how did you navigate, dating with a child? I think that's a very, big deal, especially in today's society where it's a lot of transactional relationships and where it's like, oh, well, you got kids, well, I'll pay I'll buy the kid diapers, or, I'll, help, I'll go half on the kid on the daycare, just to try to get your, intimate relationship or to get, you know, accent?
That's a great question. And, you know, some of the girlies aren't gonna like what I have to say, but for me, I didn't want them to do anything, have anything to do with my daughter. Like nothing. You cannot use her as leverage for the investment of our union. You couldn't. So no, guys didn't get to pay for daycare or anything like that. The only person who ever got to pay anything for my daughter was my now husband. And we were already serious by that time. But yeah, they would. They were like, oh, I'll pay for your time off. I'll pay for this. I'll pay for that. I'll pay for a babysitter. Or one guy offers to have his sister watch my daughter. And I was like, no, you can meet me on my lunch breaks. And that's it. Like, that was like my only time that I had. It was my hour lunch break. Like, you could either meet me then or not meet me at all. Because once I clocked out, I wanted to be present and with my daughter, me whether she's young and she's really smart, she's actually advanced. So it demanded a lot of time for me interacting with her because she's very, very social. So I didn't really have time. I didn't have time to just leave or go. And my mother was my only family in town. She wasn't going to babysit. I wasn't going to ask her. So having those hard boundaries definitely filtered a lot of people out that didn't have true intentions.
I'm glad you said that because, um, and that leads me to something else as well. And the question I have for you real quick is, what made your then now husband different from the rest of the guys when it came to allowing him that?
Well, first, he never pressured it. He never pressured it. I would talk about her, and he would gush over her like I do, like, wow, she sounds so smart, she sounds so awesome, you're doing a great job. But he was like, I can't wait to meet her, because guys will always slip that in. And he would be during my lunch breaks. For months, he would drive. He lived an hour away from me. He would drive an hour just to get to me, to see me for an hour, and drive back. And he just started doing that, 5 days a week, just to spend time with me. I think what was different about him is one thing I ask everyone is what they learned about themselves from their past relationship, not how did your ex hurt you or what were your exes like. I want to know what you've learned about yourself from your past relationships. What truth did you have to work through by yourself? And he actually had an answer. It's his personal answer. So I won't give it here. But he had answers and we got to explore that and I got to share mine. So it wasn't just, oh, this is how people have hurt me in the past. I feel like when people feel they've healed, they feel like they need to go ahead and give a resume of all the pain they've been through and what they're not going to accept. I still don't think that's productive. That's like giving a blueprint to someone if they're manipulative. So instead, see what you've learned about yourself and like this is what I've learned about myself and this is how I've worked through it. So it's like you can't really manipulate a person with that level of self-awareness. And someone who is got self-aware is they're going to try to harm you. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Uh, that makes perfect sense. You said something. I hope you guys are taking down these different nuggets. I hope the tea lights are watching and listening as well. If you're not a tea light already, make sure you follow the Verbal Tea podcast and become a tea light. And so she said a question. I've never heard that. That's why I love Verbal Tea, as my podcasting sister because that was just a nugget. Again, she said, ask the opposite person as you're getting to know them and as you start dating, ask them what they learned about themselves from their past relationship. Again, what they learned about themselves from the past relationship, not what they learned in general. Because a lot of people can just say, well, my ex was a, piece of trash, or they cheated on me, or they hurt me, or they was going through my phone. Guys love to say, oh, she crazy. She go to the phone. Or girl says, he didn't do nothing. He ain't give me no money. He wasn't about nothing. All men, the dogs, all men cheat, yada, yada, whoop the whoop. But what she said is what you learned about yourself in that journey with your ex. And so I just hope that hit home as you guys were listening and viewing to this, again, a wonderful, powerful season finale it's been thus far. Hope you guys heard that. Um, Again, what have you learned? And have an answer. What she said, what the key the determining factor. A lot of times in relationships, we go through breakthrough moments. And those breakthrough moments are questions or moments in a relationship that either make or break the relationship. And so what she said is he not only did she ask that question again during her lunch break, y'all, during her lunch break, that lunch break is valuable, especially so he drove an hour, 5 days a week. And so the first question I want to ask, how far are you willing to go for what you believe in? How far are you willing to go for what you believe in? Do you really believe in cultivating a relationship with the person that you're now talking to? And that's a question you have to ask yourself when you look in the mirror. And so what she's saying is he also had an answer when she asked that question. He didn't just make one up. He didn't just up. He actually had a valuable answer. And that leads me to my next question for the audience, real quick. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, is your significant other or the person you're trying to date or actively dating, do they add value to your life? Are your conversations valuable or meaningful? And I want you to sit down with that person, sit down with your partner and ask yourself that question. Ask each other that question. When's the last time you had a meaningful conversation? Because a lot of times we get off work, we take a shower, put dinner in the oven, or get takeout, you cuddle, watch Netflix, fall asleep, be intimate, and then you wake up and start the day over again with rinse, wash, repeat. When's the last time you had a meaningful, heartfelt conversation with your significant other? And if you can't answer that honestly and it's been a while, then that's, one of the things that needs to change. And that's one of the things you need to look at as you move forward. But again, what she said is he had an answer for what did you learn most about yourself? And so that really hit home for me because that's a question, one I've never asked or been asked, but that's definitely, some fruit for thought for the listeners and viewers here today. And another thing she said is, why give somebody a blueprint for your whole past? Why give somebody a blueprint for your whole past? When you go through every little thing you've been through, and especially on social media, stop telling the public everything you went. Matter of fact, just stop posting your ex. Stop talking about your ex. Your ex is a reason. Like Drake said, put an X to it and cancel it out. You don't have to talk about your ex to the person you're trying to move into the future with. It's like buying a house and you saying, well, when I was 18, I had an apartment that had roaches in it and it had black mold, but I really want to buy this house. Or it's like going to the car dealership and said, when I first had my car, I never went to the car wash and I never got an oil change. And the car, it had bad brakes, but I really want this brand new 2025. How ridiculous would you look to that realtor or that, car salesman? Or let's just say you go to a restaurant, you order filet mignon at Ruth Chris, and you say, last week I had McDonald's and it was cold, but I'll have a steak with a glass of wine, please. How ridiculous do you sound? And so that's what you sound like when you're talking to a new potential partner about your ex. And so I want you guys to all think about that and how ridiculous those three examples I just gave are. And really, the next time you catch yourself about to talk about your ex or mentioning your ex, really think about that. Do I really want to engage in this is this conversation value added to my current relationship or the pursuit of my future relationship? And if that's not, then that's your key to kind of shift conversation and, shift momentum. And so I love that for you. I just love that um, for you and Paul, right? Yes, you and
Yes.
Paul. And so again, how far are you willing to go for what you believe in? And so what are some definite red flags that you've seen in your past that you would like to share with the audience?
Ooh, there are a few. One, if all of the answers were that person, that's it, that's all. It either means that that person has no self awareness and a victim mindset, or that they may have been the bad person. It's hard to truly assess your relationships and be like, everyone that I gave myself to in the past was beneath me. Like that, to sum it up that way, just does not reflect growth to me, is a red flag, first and foremost. Second, people with no boundaries. If I hear my heart is just too big, I just have a big heart. That means that you don't have boundaries. And I knew if a person didn't have boundaries, I was going to intimidate them because I do. I do have boundaries. And I think boundaries are important, especially if you are interested in marriage. A marriage cannot survive without boundaries because you're going to learn what does and doesn't work for you. And if you don't have those boundaries, that is when resentment grows because you're going to let that person walk over you. So you have to know how to assert yourself. Those are my two big red flags. I'm just give those two.
You said about the boundaries because a once great aunt of mine, still great to this day, of the blemished beauty, always said that no is a complete sentence. So I love you said that because a lot of people equate a big heart to being all accepting, and this has a big heart, has a really big heart. You that are in that space, he died for our sins, but read the Bible, he has a lot of boundaries. A lot. They're called sins. And there are a lot of sins in the world, and there are a lot of boundaries. So if you are, regardless of what you believe in, if you are in that space, especially, and you are to be like Jesus and like Christ, that means you are to be a man or woman of boundaries. And so don't go through life without boundaries. No is a complete sentence. And stop going through life, caring what other people think, you know, when you do have boundaries, because if they get mad because you have boundaries, then they weren't the person meant for your life in the first place. And so, on the caveat to that, what are some great characteristics that you feel, helps a relationship thrive and succeed?
Having the hard conversations. There are so many people, most people like to shy away from them or navigate them as if partners or therapists. Just have the hard conversations. If something is bothering you, talk about it. If something is important to you, talk about it. Because I feel a lot of people show their best selves first, right? And they aren't their best selves. You're not your perfect image of yourself. You are just you. And it's important that you speak on what's important to you instead of just letting it slide. That is a great green flag to me, is having the hard conversations. Paul's a Scorpio, so he's a very passionate man. And if something wasn't working for him or something was important to him, I never had to wonder. I still don't. We have that conversation, even if he knows it might be challenging for me. And it has empowered me to be that, to have that same thing with myself and my career and friendships and all other things. And my life has just leveled up because of that. So I'd say that's a green flag, is having the hard conversations. Another is being vocal about your limitations. None of us are perfect. We all have ways we don't handle things well, or flaws. And it's very important to be open about those and just say, yes, you're right. I didn't word that well, or I didn't do that. Just active in action, accountability, I guess. That's a buzzword, but that's what it looks like. It's not just saying, oh, this is me and I deserve to suffer. It's saying, you know what, I didn't do this right. You're right. Let me work on that.
Awesome. Those are two great green flags. And again, it goes right back to your boundaries, limitations, you not want to do. You're allowed to, you're your own person. You're allowed to voice that to your partner, allowed to have limitations. You don't have to be, again, no is a complete sentence. You don't have to do everything and it doesn't have to be intimately or within the relationship. It could be outside the relationship. It could be, hey, I really don't want to go over your friend's house with you, or I don't really want to hang out with family today. You don't have to do everything or I don't want to go see a movie this weekend. Let's do something else. You don't have to do everything just because your partner wants to. Again, that's called manipulation and narcissism. And that is the key that you're in an unhealthy relationship. And so, as you said, you went from, being a single mother to dating to now, happily married. Can you tell the exalted how long you've been married and how does it feel to be a wonderful wife?
Well, I guess we're still technically newlyweds. We married on our 3rd year anniversary, July 15th. So I've been married for a little over a year. It's awesome. I love it. Um, I feel like the dynamics haven't changed that much, except now we look at each other and it's like, yes, we committed in front of our family and friends to be together forever. So it's so fun when we joke about certain things because it's like we're locked in, you know? Bad boys for life, I guess. But yeah, we've been married for a year and it's been amazing. It, because I'm at this great healthy space for our relationship, I do struggle with giving relationship advice because the more that we talk, the more I realize that both of us were working on this marriage before we met each other. Like we both were working to grow to be these people before we met each other. And it's hard to compile that into a nice, concise little message or nugget for people because we both were doing the work before we met each other.
They focus on the shadow work. What she said, they went through a lot of the shadow work. And uh, social media, can be the light or can be the most darkest moments. The reason I say it is because when you look at married couples, we see the Kardashians and all. You see the wedding ring. You see most people show the wedding ring, the ceremony, and the honeymoon. Little occasional the uh, anniversary post every year and the birthdays. But what they don't show is those dark moments, those shadow works. They don't show, the crying in the middle of the night. They don't show the disagreements, behind closed doors. They don't show the frustration with, it's financially or maybe it's emotionally. They don't show the lack of connection and, navigating through that. They don't show the darkest parts of marriage. And I love that you guys say that because, again, work on yourself and manifest the marriage you want before the marriage comes. Just like people say in sports, practice makes permanence. Perfect. Practice makes permanence. And the reason I say permanence is because, again, they're still newlywed and they're still growing. It's an infinite game of life. There's no final destination. You put the ring on, put the glass Cinderella slipper on and say yes, right, and walk down the aisle. It's a ever going, life changing journey that you go through in union together each and every day. And so focus on your shadow work. If you're still dating, if you're still dating, you're not yet married or engaged, what are you doing daily with within each other and within the union that makes you think you deserve marriage? What part of your relationship is resemblance and in symbolization of a healthy, happy marriage? If you can't answer that question, if you can't answer that question, then you're not ready to be married yet. And so you have to work on that as time goes on to develop that. And so focus on the marriage before the marriage comes. And then when the marriage comes, then you'll still be locked in, focused on the assignment and pursuing greatness each and every day. And so, last question, and that is, what would you say to those out there that say marriage is just a paper or it's just a ring? What would you say to those people that, as we started the episode, you didn't see marriage in your, lifespan or your time frame, but what made you change your mind once you met Paul? And what could you say to those individuals that are out there that had that same mindset?
So this question, that's a really good question. As it is a piece of paper, but we are symbolic people. Humans are symbolic creatures. Marriage, I used to think was just a piece of paper and I was indifferent to it. But Paul was very, very intentional and very clear on me wanting to marry. His parents were married for 40 years before we lost my mother-in-law. And yes, I helped him during that grieving period. Um, but really, it's different. It changes the energy. When you are committed to sharing your life with someone, you want to validate it in every aspect, in every way. There's just no excuse. And it would just seem like a no-brainer to me. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna move in together. We're gonna raise our children together. I wanna share my life with you, and I want to affirm it in everything that I do. So sure, but that's what we could do in our business because, we're paying meals together, we're doing all of this. So it just is like a natural step to me. And now we don't have to worry about doing any fancy paperwork as beneficiaries to each other's life insurance policies. We don't have to do any of that extra stuff because we're just affirming our union on every level, not just with the government, but with our friends, with our creative pursuits. He's my podcast editor, with everything. It just logically, it just didn't make sense to be opposed to it. And the wedding is a celebration of your life. It's not to posture for people, but like literally just celebrating your love. And that's why my wedding was my favorite wedding, as well as a lot of other people's, because it was just a celebration of love. We weren't proving anything to anyone. We were just affirming what we have promised each other in our hearts and verbally in every way. Every way.
Man, amen, amen. What a wonderful, powerful, impactful season finale of season 1 of Black Garden. And so, again, be intentional. Like I said earlier, how far are you willing to go, what you believe in? How far are you willing to go for what you believe in? The Arbiters built us out of simple pieces, so difficult to mend, so easy to break. But with perseverance, healing, and knowing your true self, you too can live a happy, healthful, abundant life and have the marriage of your dreams with the man or woman of your dreams. If you just manifest daily, write it down, envision your life for what you want. And again, as I always say, focus on your assignment. And you too, regardless of how your parents were raised, how you grew up, or what vision was laid for you, you too can have a successful marriage. And the key is it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. You're going to cry. You're going to get mad. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to get anxious. You're going to get disdainful. But the key is, how far are you willing to go? And how far are you willing to maintain the life that you deserve to live? And so with that being said, what are some last minute tips, motivations that you could give the Exalted Tea Lights and listeners and viewers alike? And also, one more time, tell them how they can find Verbal Tea.
Right. So a huge piece of advice and just a healthy practice is to tap into yourself. Spend alone time with your thoughts. Relationships are so popular to discuss online, but you do really need to be discussing them by yourself and with your significant other. Unplug everything. It's all smoke and mirrors anyway. Unplug and tune into your relationship with yourself and with other people. You have to have those conversations outside of comment sections. I can't emphasize that enough. And if you don't know where to start, this is a great segue into getting into the Verbal Tea podcast, becoming an official tea light. You can tune into us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, as well as a few others. Anywhere you stream, you can listen to us. You can also check out our monthly blog. That will be in the show notes at our website. I have some very helpful prompts there. So if you tune into Rebel Tea, you'll be able to hear conversations as well as get questions and prompts to start your own. I highly encourage that. The key to a great relationship is not always it's just looking out, but really checking yourself within.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And so as the ice packs melt and the band-aids get stuck. Again, it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey inside Black Garden. And so it's been a wonderful conversation with the Verbal Tea on going from a young woman with a daughter that didn't see a successful marriage in her future to being able to journal, manifest the life she wanted to live, meet the man of her dreams, and continue to daily cultivate the marriage that she always knew deep down that she could see. This has been Dark Law, and this has been Verbal Tea for episode 22, the single season finale of The Black Garden. Again, we did it, y'all. September 20th, 2024. The whole first season will be live and published. Find us on Spotify and wherever you stream podcasts, as well as YouTube. Again, take one thing that was said today. And what I want real quick, and I want the audience and viewers, as they have reflected on this first season of Black Garden, as they put the cherry on top with the tea lights and Verbal Tea, looking yourself in the mirror. I hope you've healed. I hope you found the best version of yourself. If you're single, I hope you find true love and the significant other of your dreams. If you're dating, I hope you continue to cultivate that wonderful relationship into a successful marriage. If you're already married, maintain success and keep on keeping on. And if it's time to leave, I pray that you have nothing but success and high virtues in your next journey. It's been a wonderful ride, but all good things must momentarily come to an end. We'll see you in 2025 for season 2. This has been Dark Law and Verbal Tea, episode 22. Go ahead, follow the Verbal Tea podcast, become a tea light. You won't regret it, and you will be satisfied. Until next time on the Black Guiding. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Create Dominion podcast with your host, Dark Law. Be sure to follow and like on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, and go ahead and follow our Facebook and Instagram pages as well. We hope that you took something and resonated with it, that you can apply it to your daily life to become the best version of yourself and decree the dominion of your mind. Remember, decree and declare and take back your rightful throne and your rightful place into the best version of yourself. Thank you.